Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Digging a Bit Deeper. Today I have my good friends, Jennifer and Tracy. Jennifer, who are you with?
Jennifer Fiore with Guild Mortgage in Sparks off of Vista.
And Tracy.
Tracy McLeod with First Centennial Title.
And I'm so excited because we have a lot of questions coming over about manufactured housing. And we have VA loans, we have FHA loans, and we have conventional. And there's so many rules and regulations. So I brought the professionals along today. So you're not just hearing it from me. Why, when we're looking on the MLS, can only some go FHA, some go VA, and then some can only go conventional or cash. Jennifer, can I start with you on that question?
Definitely. So manufactured homes are kind of a tricky bunch. It really has a lot to do with the structural soundness of the property. Each type of loan has its own rules and regulations. So that's why sometimes it can only go one way and not conventional USDA, VA. What's crazy is, like, just a simple example, VA allows for a manufactured home that's been moved to another site to a new site to get financing. Other loan does. So that's just one example of where it can really determine, which way you can go. Each one has its own potential credit score requirements as well for a manufactured home. So that's a piece of it. But I think some of the bigger differences really are the interest rates impacted. So I think people look at a manufactured home thinking, oh, I might be able to save a little bit of money. But there's some little catches there. So lenders are going to price those manufactured homes a little bit higher interest rate wise. And it really has to do with risk. It is all risk. So your homeowner's insurance could be a little bit higher because of risk. And the risk we're talking about there is when you look at a stick-built home is built from the ground up, right? But a manufactured home is built in pieces in a warehouse. And then they truck that out to the actual site, put it together, and make it structurally sound. But they have a period of time or a lifespan where that structural soundness could potentially cause some issues. So as of right now, a manufactured home prior to 1976 can't get regular financing on it. It's met its lifespan. Also, if a manufactured home has a front deck or a back deck that's been added onto it after the fact, that's something else that could create a structural issue to it. So you might have to have an additional inspection to verify from a certified structural engineer that front or back porch did not affect that structural soundness. That costs about $350, $400. And then there's some tags that are like a VIN plate that is on the manufactured home that really it carries the history of that manufactured home. It tells us if it was moved right from the warehouse or not. And sometimes those plates, we can't see them on the manufactured home. So then another invoice or inspection has to be done to verify what those, VIN numbers are. So there's a little bit extra cost on them. And they're still fabulous properties. I've seen some amazing manufactured homes. One, you can't even tell it's manufactured. It's
I know.
amazing.
Yeah, they're getting crafty with it. And I do have to say, if you own a manufactured home and you're thinking of selling, and you've ever wondered what those silver things are, don't paint over it when you're getting ready. Leave them.
No.
And if your title is a sheet of paper in your underneath your desk, underneath your cabinet, or it's usually in the laundry room. Don't rip that off. Keep it there. It'll save you some grief at the very least. And it's interesting when you're talking about the structure of it. It makes sense it's a protection for the buyer. Is that correct? As well as the person giving the loan out, where if you take the property and it's moved there and you put it on the foundation to, even if it's an 8-point, to rest, and then it settles there, then you pick it up and move it again, you're making it less stable. So it's actually a protection for you as well. Buyer beware, this is less sound than if you had put it on one foundation and you moved it and put it on another. It doesn't mean you can't live in it and it's going to be okay, but there could be some issues because of moving it again, and that's why they have these rules, or
Right.
they just
No,
like to tell us what to do.
yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's not only for the lender's benefit, it's for the buyer's benefit as well. We don't want somebody to buy a manufactured home that's not structurally sound, that ultimately is going to cause them problems, and their investment just became a huge issue. So I think the other piece that a lot of times people miss, there's two. One is manufactured homes in like manufactured home parks can't get regular financing. And the only reason behind that is they don't own the land underneath, right? You have to pay space rent.
Right.
So that's not an option. To buy a manufactured home, it's got to have the land underneath it come with it. And then where Tracy can kind of talk a little bit too on this is what's the difference between real property and personal property? And that's that conversion or foundation that you were just mentioning. So
yeah, a lot of people will have their manufactured homes and they'll think, they're a home and that they can sell it, but really it's not on an 8-point. They're just showing, when you look on the tax rolls, that it's vacant land. They're showing an actual necessarily structure or loan there for that. So you have to go through a conversion, and sometimes people haven't even fit onto an 8-point. So if they haven't, then during escrow that needs to be done, and that can be anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 depending on what the situation happens. And then there's inspections, there's all kinds of fees, plus escrow has a $350 fee just to deal with the conversion itself. There's a lot of paperwork, and most lenders, there are a few that won't, and I know that Jennifer does. You can do that conversion during the process, because what happens is we help you it's like having a vehicle. So your manufactured home's like a vehicle. So we have to deal with DMV and get that all set and get that personal property gone and convert it over to where it's considered real property, affixed to land that is owned. So that whole thing makes it one. That's 6 to 8 weeks. So we put all the paperwork together, and we like to do some people try to do this, the affidavit of transfer paperwork and conversion. They try to fill it out. We've had realtors do it. Don't let escrow do it, because we know exactly how to do it. And if it's done wrong, the nightmare of getting it fixed is way worse. So let escrow fill it out, and we'll ask for the information, because as you can see, if you've dealt with any manufactured, it can take a long time, even when there is no hiccups. So we want a hiccup. So that. And there's a whole list. I mean, literally, and I know Jennifer has the same list of fees, because unique as each situation can be, depending on what needs to be done. If you've lost you painted over your HUD tags or your different things that you have, and it happens, or you can't fit it all. It's been sitting there for a long time. So it just depends.
It happens so often.
It does. It does.
So don't feel silly. It happens.
I think people think, oh, that's just ugly, I'm going to paint over it. Don't do it.
Well, it makes sense. And honestly, there is a lot of extra steps, more than we would have to do on a stick-built house, to verify for you, the purchaser. There is absolutely, right now, because of COVID, we used to not, I don't know of anyone anyway at this moment, because of COVID, they started even saying on a conventional, you need a engineer cert. That's a fee as an additional inspection. So you need your down payment, you have your home inspection, you're going to have an engineer cert, then you're going to have an appraisal, and then you can move on from there. And then most of the time, these usually come with space, so you're probably going to be on a well or a septic. So you're talking, instead of maybe like, you're talking a couple thousand more just in mandated inspections that you're going to need for a FHA or a VA. If you're on a well, you need a well test and a water sample test, because for you, the protection of the buyer is this water clean for you to drink? Just because the well is bringing water out doesn't mean it's clean. And it's one of those things where it seems like a lot of money at the moment, but it's well worth it for you. And nobody's ever said, dang it, I really feel horrible, I had that inspection. because it at least lets you know what you're getting into. And really, we just want to make sure that the home is going to last as long as the loan at the very least, so you can live there for your life instead of have to not.
I like your little well worth it, because it is worth it to make sure that you're getting water and that your water is safe.
It is. It's something we don't think about, but you know, and that sometimes during the transaction we get frustrated, of course. Oh my gosh, another thing that came up. Even when you know what you're doing, everything's unique like a fingerprint, but a different situation is one was converted and the porch was attached to the house. Well, and she was doing this not being mean, but the appraiser was saying, that porch doesn't have a permit. You're going to have to get a permit. And the owner was sitting there thinking, that's been in on there for the life that he's ever known. It was his family's home. So he only saw the porch being there. So we believed that it was built that way. And the appraiser was telling us it wasn't. So to find that mystery out of really what it was or not, we had to crawl underneath the home and with the engineer and ask him what his opinions were. And lo and behold, it did turn out that it was built that way because the metal frame underneath the home touched from the back all the way to the front of the porch. So it had to have been built that way. But it took a couple extra steps in calling the engineer back out, which was additional fees.
Right.
Because he wasn't going to do it for free. Why should anyone work for free? But in the end, we all got to the end and everyone was happy. But it's a protection for you, even though it's a struggle, to make sure this home is going to last for you. You don't want it falling apart in 5 years when you have 25 more years on your loan. That's just not what we want to get you into. So sounds like you have this list to go down to make sure that we're following the steps properly.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that's great when you have a lender, because they are going to look specifically for all those steps and protect you. But I do caution, because on the escrow side, we see nightmares. So some of these things don't fit into the bubble. So it's all cash. So somebody, and they don't do a well check or a septic check or all these things. I mean, having to dig a new well, be 10,000 on up, depending on where you're at. So even if it is an all cash type transaction, if you have a good agent like Mary, she's going to point out that you really should have these inspections. Yeah. So sure that you're looking at that if you're not getting a loan, because we have seen some crazy stuff happen.
I am so glad you pointed that out, because it's not that these things are like scary or whatnot, but if you had a previous owner that maybe doesn't know how to take care of a septic, there could be huge issues. And between just the septic alone, if the septic tank had an issue, it could cost between $12,000 and $16,000 for a new septic tank. And that's not the cap of it. That's just here in the valley where there's sand. So one story we had, which was a lot of people take care of their septics by, putting bleach or something there to clean things out. Don't always recommend that. I recommend pumping it and have it cleaned more. It's only every 2 to 5 years, depending on how many people you have in the house. And it's only about a $500 fee, depending on if it's $1,000 or $1,500, 1,000 or 1,500 gallon tank, depends on the price they charge you. But this being the case, someone's coming in paying cash for one. I highly advise, because I caught on that the seller said he's never pumped the tank. I said, I really highly advise you to check that. I really do. Please. Lo and behold, one cottonwood got to the tank and there's roots in the tank. That's something that could have really been damaging to him after, because he's putting his whole line in right now. So it's not something that can easily be taken care of. For somebody's putting everything in for cash and then just is going to be happy, loan free, everything, a lot of us want to get there. So we spent some time, and the sellers often don't know of the issue. They're not trying to hide anything from you. So of course, when they know, oh my gosh, they're like, how can we help? We don't want to leave you with this. Like, let's do that. So we were able to come to a very good negotiation, and the sellers were more than generous and just took care of it for us out of the proceeds of the sale. So it was one of those things where not having that inspection could have been about, we were getting quoted $13,000.
Wow.
Yeah, the penny wise and dollar foolish. I would say anything, the worst thing I see is somebody not doing an inspection on something that makes sense. It's worth the pennies, even if it's just peace of mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Any kind of pointers? Because these are great homes. They're great options, and usually they come with space, land. They usually come with land, not always, but they usually come with space, and that is a big ticket item that people are looking for right now. We want a little bit elbow room for kids to play outside if they can't do a lot of other things at this time. So it's very popular, and I don't want to scare people from buying any of manufactured homes because they're really great options, and they do, if they have all the lists taken care of, they're solid homes to live in. So I don't want to scare anyone from it, but I just want to like enlighten them that there are more fees and different things, and maybe cost a little bit more on insurance for the reasons, but we've gone over those. But any other pointers you can give them to watch out for? And then I don't know, anything else you can think of on it?
For me, I would say if you've got an address and you want info on it, just to kind of check it out, give any of us the address, and we can start doing some research on it. It's as simple as that. I can start looking at things online to see what they are. Reach out to Tracy. She can help check to verify everything's in place. That way you know when you're walking into a specific property, the details. So that's the best advice I would give. If somebody's looking at one, get an address, send it to us. We'll do some research. So
let us research it, and just know that just because something could come up, just have patience, because there are more things that are manufactured. Doesn't mean it's out the door and not going to work. It just means that we need to make these steps. So in the end, you have a house and real property. So that you want, and that you can borrow against if you want, or do things. So it's just a process. So just patience.
I'm glad you brought that up, because just because a difficult thing comes up doesn't mean you guys can't make it right and work it out and work through the end. And I've seen both of you guys do that 100%, where this is a hiccup. It's just going to cost us more time to move in, but you want this before you move in. You want us to take care of this little hiccup. And sometimes there's 2 or 3, 4 hiccups during that process, but you get them to the finish line and they have the product they were looking for anyway. But what I do absolutely love, and I just want to say, everybody, I heard both of them say, just call them and they'll work for free beforehand, like before you get into a mistake. So we don't mind you calling us. We don't mind you doing some work so that we save some headaches, or we just make your dream come true. I heard it from both of you.
That's right.
So if they want to call you and do some research, how do they get a hold of you, Tracy?
You can reach me at 775-230-0421. That's 775-230-0421.
And how about you, Jennifer?
Cell phone's the best, 775-338-5059.
And thank you guys again for joining me for another Digging a Bit Deeper. And this week, we hope you got some value out of us. And if there's anything I can do for you regarding real estate, just reach out, 775-682-1973. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, ladies.